What's up? We got Legend of Tomorrow, Season 2, Episode 10, The Legion of Doom. Okay, so anyway, this episode starts off 8 months ago where we see Malcolm Romeo walking into his home and seeing the death of Dean and Darhk news play all over the screen. But that's when Eobard and Damien show up, and he's like, Damien Darhk, you're supposed to be dead, but he's like, yeah, he's in 2016, wasn't his best year. I love Damien. I love him. So yeah, so they're like, hey, do you wanna help us? And he's like, help us do what? And he's like, change your future. So then we back to present day where we see the team bickering about how they can't find the spirit of destiny, and he's like, what do you do, Eobard? All you do is just speed away. He's like, if you have some, that I could kill you right now, merelyn. And he's like, no, but if you did that, you wouldn't know. Get the Rip Hunter to remember who he is. He's like, the legend. We're better than the legend. And he's like, why is that? Because the legends are a bunch of idiots. So then we see Mick basically saying the exact same thing, calling them idiots. And he's like, why don't you just trade the spear for Rip? Why don't you just trade the 2 medallions for Rip? And she's like, hey, Mick's got a point, says Jackson. Not for calling us idiots, for trading Rip for the spear, because for the weapon. Because so Martin's like, hey, I got someone who can help me with that. So he's like, hey, Martin, hey, great, we can just go to 20. I can't believe that's his name now. I can't believe it go all the way to 2017 just for coffee. He's like, no, we came to meet his daughter. So he's like, we meet your colleague is your daughter. And he's like, they meet each other and they're like, oh yeah. So they show her and she's like, and she activates it, but they're like, we should do this. And so they take him to the wave rider, and they're all shocked. They're like, Martin, you have a child? And she's like, and he's like, yeah. He's like, you didn't tell us you had a child. And she's like, Sarah, do you know about this? And she's like, oh, I know all about this. So I love Sarah. So anyway, they decide to, so back with the Legion. The Legion are starting to question themselves, being like, why does Eobard always leave them alone? So basically, we get into a sword duel between, basically it's revealed, does some dental surgery on Rip. Basically, Damien decides to do some dental surgery on Rip and discovers there's a secret message inside his tooth. They take out one of his teeth and decides there's a secret message in it. So they're like, hey, he's like, it's to a bank account that Rip decided to go to in 21-25. So he takes Phil, Malcolm, and Damien all to 2025, while Eobard's just doing whatever Eobard can. So they decide to, leave. They decide to go to this bank where Rick runs into some trouble, but basically they knock at there because they're like, hey, go. Or Malcolm's like, go, but Damien's like, stay, and they're like, hey, it's your plan. But he's like, hey, do you wonder why why Eobard's always in 2 places at once? So meanwhile, back with Lily and Ray figure out the Gideon thing, but that's when Mick decides to drop the time aberration bomb on her, that she's actually a time aberration. that's because she's like, why is everyone looking at her weird? And Rick's like, oh yeah, because you're a time aberration, duh. And she's like, what's a time aberration, right? He's like, you better ask your dad for that. So yeah, so she's like, what's a time aberration? And he's like, you're not an aberration. You're his daughter. And she's like, that's why you've been looking at me ever since you came back to the house because she's a stranger. He's like, because you are a stranger, because when he got before he left the Wave Rider, she wasn't around, and so she's like, hey, maybe, yeah. So he's basically like, hey, when he tries to explain the birds and the bees, but she's like, no, I don't need to learn the birds and the bees. She learned that when she was 10, or did they? So yeah, so she tries to get off the Wave Rider, but he's like, no. So yeah, so he tries to tell her that she's fire. He tries to tell her that he's Firestorm, but she's like, yeah, that's not funny. Lily, he really is Firestorm. What do you think he's doing on the Wave Rider anyway? What do you think he's doing on the Wave Rider anyway, Lily? If you don't buy he's Firestorm, what do you think he's doing? So yeah, so back with the Legends, back with the Legion of Doom, as Nate likes to call them. They're basically hey, they basically get into a sword fight, but then Rip's like, hey, your boss is using him. He's not our boss, and he just calls Underly's name like henchman, whatever. And he's like, it's just like the good, the bad, and ugly when three bad guys are put. Never saw that movie, but Rip basically explains that when three people are put together, the bad guy makes. He's like, that's why. So they basically capture him and turn him to a bank where he's like, hey, we're not getting out. And he's like, what's in the device, Malcolm? And he's like, this is Rip Hunter's memory. So Rip's put his memories into a bank, okay, and then he's like, it's been chasing him. He's like, it's not a thing. It's not a who. It's a thing. It's been chasing him ever since the Flash pulled him out of the timeline because of the Flashpoint thing, and to reveal the thing chasing him is the Black Flash, basically Zoom. Zoom is the deformed self is basically chasing him because it hunts down speedsters. Basically, he thought it was time at first, but no, it's something worse. So he's like, he was supposed to die. He was supposed to die when A protected himself, but the Flash basically pulled him out of the timeline when the Flash created Flashpoint, and basically now this thing is trying to chase him to kill him because he's actually meant to be dead. So yeah, so they trick him. They trick him by having him coming straight to eobard, but then they trap him in the bank. But then they trap him in the bank vault, obviously. So back with the Legends, they're wondering who this mystery speedster is until Martin mentions Eobard Thawne. He's like, is he all fine? He's like, he's fine. He's like, Eobard Thawne is the name of the person who they show flashback from him to tell us that he's dead. He's shooting himself, but the Speed Force protected him, and now the Speed Force protected him, and he was protected by the Speed Force, and that means he can never die. So yeah. So they're like, hey, we're gonna restore Rip Hunter's memories, but we'll just give Mr. Hunter a little rewrite. Give him his memories back without the shortcoming. So now Rip has all his memories, but he's evil now, I'm guessing, because now he teams up with the Legion, so he's backed out of his memories, but he's evil. I'm kind of confused with the whole thing. So back in the 1700s, Christmas Day, he basically shoots George Washington. Evil Rip now shoots George Washington, and that's how the episode ends. Okay, so I thought this episode was really good. It was cool seeing how Malcolm got recruited to the Legion of Doom. That's basically their name, even though Sarah doesn't want to call them that. And yeah, it's very cool watching this show. So yeah. So Rip's now evil because he now has all his memories back, but without the shortcomings. So is he evil? Is he gonna team up with Legion of Doom? Is Rip evil because he just shot a political figure? So is Rip evil? I'm kind of confused about that. But anyway, that's it for this video, and I'll see you next time for some more legends. Bam, bam, bam.